Viking Myth, the epic tale of a lumberjack and his magic hammer. Kids' adventure stories. Written by Jeff Child. Narrated by John H. Feskins. Introduction. Jack is a lumberjack. He loves his work. He chops wood all day and picks out the best trees, but recently the forest has disappeared. He is devastated and desperate for a new solution to feed his family. He ventures into the wilderness, looking for other resources. Meanwhile, a magical object is about to be found by this honest, zealous husband and father, an object with hidden powers stronger than he could have imagined. Will he be able to control the elements with his new tool? Above all, will this be enough to provide for his family? Find out and listen to more about this unusual story about a simple man in a challenging adventure. Chapter 1. Family Matters. "I am tired," one of the kids said. "That's because you have been walking around being beautiful all day, Shelley," Jack said. "Sure, Dad." "No, I'm serious," Jack said. "If I were a young man and single, I would marry you in a heartbeat." "Okay, honey," his wife Elizabeth said. "That's enough. Besides, it's bedtime." Jack and Elizabeth's 7 children climbed on their laps in front of the fireplace and waited for the long-desired story time. Each night, Jack would tell a different story. Some of them were funny, others scary or adventurous. It was like he had a never-ending imagination and a knack for doing voices. The kids would listen carefully and get into it completely. None of them liked the to-be-continued stories, since they were anxious to hear the ending. But sometimes Jack was so tired that he indicated to his wife that the day was over. After yet another intriguing narrative, Elizabeth told their 4 daughters and 3 sons to go to sleep. "And don't stay up talking for so long this time," she warned the oldest 2. "No worries, Mom," they said at the same time. Jack and Elizabeth talked for a while and went to bed. They were deeply enough, even after so many children, especially after so many children. They supported each other and were satisfied with their marriage. Nothing seemed to be able to get in the way of their happiness. But something went wrong. The next morning, Jack went to work in the forest. His job as a lumberjack was fulfilling. He gained some muscle and liked the feeling that he was providing for his family by working hard and getting as many logs sold to the people in the village as he could. The year was tough. The harvest hadn't been as good as in previous years, and all the villagers had been using some of their savings and food storages to get through the cold, hard winter. For Jack, the winter was a good season. There were plenty of trees to be chopped, and everybody needed lumber to keep their homes warm and to cook. But this was a bad day. This day was terrible. Jack stepped outside and gazed at what had been the forest the day before. It was gone. Totally gone. Where did all the trees go? He shook his head in disbelief and looked at the ground. There it was, the cause of this disaster. There had been a fire. The fact that their cottage hadn't been affected by it was a miracle. Some trees were still standing, charred by the fire of the previous night. Jack couldn't believe that they didn't notice anything that night. He must have been really tired, falling asleep and not waking up by the slightest sound or temperature change. He was grateful that his family had been spared, but here was the worst part. Because the trees were gone, his job was gone. And although he had been chopping so many trees in the past weeks, there was no way he could sell some of these charred pieces of wood. What was he going to do? This had been his profession for years. It had always provided them a solid financial foundation, but now that the forest fire had hit them, they were out of resources. No more wood meant no more money, which meant no food. And starving children was the last thing he wanted on his conscience. After searching the forest and analyzing the damage, he returned home and reported the incident to his wife. "What?" she said in panic. "How can we survive if there is no more wood to chop and to sell?" "I'll try to find a way," Jack said. "You better find a way. Do you realize we have no more food storage? We are out. Out! Well, almost. If we are frugal, we can still squeeze a few meals out of what we have, but after that, it's over." "I know, Elizabeth," Jack said, "and I wished it weren't that way." "So what are you going to do about it?" Jack's wife sneered. "I will do my best." "Your best?" she asked. "Your best may not be enough. What are you going to do?" "Take it easy, Elizabeth," Jack said. "I love you. We'll find a way." He gave her a hug. She hugged him back and apologized for her outburst. She was in tears. It hurt Jack a lot to see her this way, and he was determined to do something about it. After comforting her, he took his axe and left the house, promising her that he would not return until he found a solution. They said goodbye, embraced each other one more time, and watched each other by looking back as Jack walked and walked until he was out of sight. Chapter 2: Mountain Lava. Jack walked for hours. He had no clue where to go, and he hoped that something or someone would guide him through this difficult time. With his big beard and dark overalls, he looked like a rough man. It was never his intention to come across this way, but his wife had told him that it looked cute on him, and that he should keep the beard. His shiny belt was the only thing in his attire that made him stand out as an average-class citizen. He was a little scared to ask for help in the village because of this reason. But his appearance wasn't the reason the villagers rejected his plea for help. The dire circumstances of the previous harvest was the reason, actually, which had left everyone desperately compiling their assets and becoming overly suspicious when others expressed a desire for food, money, or any other useful resource. Jack knocked on one door after another, asking for help and hoping that someone could spare a little grain, a little meat, or a piece of cheese for his family. He received nothing. After a few hundred doors, he gave up. It was pointless, and he knew it. "We don't even have enough for ourselves," was often the answer, and, "Sorry, man, can't. Good luck, though." All the villagers were just as desperate for food as he was. He had to look elsewhere, but the thought scared him. He had never been outside the borders of the land. His knowledge didn't even extend beyond a certain territory. He had no idea what was out there. So a leap of faith was all he could do. He sat on the pavement in one of the streets. Some of the villagers walked by, but ignored him. His head was buried in his hands. Where should he go? All of a sudden, he remembered someone talking about a lake in the north. Surely there must be some trees and plants for him to chop there. It's a lake. Lakes have water. Plants love water. They grow around water. Perhaps there was a forest there. The lake was on the other side of the mountain, though. Who knew what kinds of dangers were lurking beneath the shadow of the mountain? He thought about it. Then he made his decision. He got up and started walking into the direction of the mountain. He hiked for 4 hours. Uh-oh, what was that? Above him, he noticed a glowing substance sliding down and streaming near him. The substance was red, fiery, and hot. He looked at it up close. Lava! Or the smoke would have choked him a long time ago. But when he started this little exploring journey, he didn't realize that he was walking up a lava mountain. Maybe I should go back, he decided. He dodged some of the lava currents and hopped from rock to rock. Some areas were completely safe, which made his path secure and easy to tread. Other areas were covered in the dangerous stuff. But then, when he was about to turn around, he saw something shiny. An object was hidden behind a small bush, almost blinding him when he looked into its direction. Chapter 3: The Magical Hammer. Jack came closer and got more curious. What could that glimmering object be? He lifted up the bush and glanced at it. It was a hammer. What was a hammer doing at such a distinct, odd location? Did someone leave it here? Who would come up here anyway? It was dangerous here. It made no sense. Before he picked it up, Jack pondered the meaning of this coincidental occurrence. Mr. Imagination couldn't think of any reason someone would leave a hammer like that in the middle of nowhere in a lava area. "Oh well," he said after a while, and picked up the axe. It seemed on fire, but it wasn't. It was strange. It was a very fine axe. Even though Jack had never been a blacksmith, he recognized the material and was in awe by its sophisticated handiwork. Surely this was a valuable object he could sell to the villagers and get some money or food in return. But then he thought about it. He had been a little scared to go on since the lava was unpredictable and deadly. But now that Jack had found this hammer, he saw it as a sign. He took it as a sign that positivity was ahead, that there was still hope, and that he was headed in the right direction. He held the hammer. It was truly brilliant. It had an aura he had never seen before, as if some kind of power was radiating from its very core. With that in mind, he went on and climbed higher up the mountain. Nevertheless, for safety reasons, he deviated somewhat from his course, hiking around the mountain to avoid more lava and reach the other side. Chapter 4. The Fish. Jack reached the other side of the mountain in a few hours. He was surprised by the speed with which he managed to finish his journey. The view in front of him was breathtaking. He was looking at a raw piece of nature, an untouched particle of land that had been hidden from society as he knew it. His gaze extended farther than he had ever been able to imagine, and enthusiastically he descended down the mountain to the beautiful lake in front of him. The water was reflecting the sunlight. The mountains behind it had a purplish glow about them, caused by the slow sunset at the moment Jack reached the shore. There were trees, tons of trees, more than he could carry home. It was unfortunate that he didn't have any more bags to carry lumber in. He had only 2. But for now it was enough. He could sell the valuable hammer and some of the logs he would chop here, and with that money could easily be exchanged for some food for his family. He was glad he came here. It was worth it in the end. It was getting dark, though, and Jack knew he wouldn't accomplish much by chopping in the dark. He set up camp, which didn't consist of more than a simple blanket he pulled out of his backpack, and his backpack that served as a somewhat comfortable pillow. It was night, there was no moon, and the stars didn't provide enough light to help him on his quest. He decided to go to sleep, and within minutes, he did. In the middle of the night, he woke up with a jolt. "Whoa, what?" he said. He looked around him. Something was wrong. Where was the light coming from? He looked to the second bag he had laid against a tree trunk. Light was emanating from it. It was highly unusual, and Jack wanted to discover everything about this weird phenomenon. How a bag could glow in the dark he did not know, but he was about to find out. He did not hesitate, and reached inside the bag. It was the hammer. The hammer was glowing. What kind of a hammer was this? Certainly this was not an ordinary hammer. "Let's try it out," Jack said to himself. He swung the hammer backwards and hit it against a tree. Crack! The tree immediately split in half. "Wow! Such power! Such strength!" Jack exclaimed. He was astounded by the immense force of this dangerous weapon, but the fact that it was glowing still raised questions in his mind. He decided to use it again. He lifted the hammer up and hit it on the ground as hard as he could. The ground cracked, and the hammer showed sparks and electric bolts. "Very interesting," Jack mumbled. "Electricity, huh? I think I just might have another way to provide for my family. Let's see how this little bugger works on water." He walked to the lake and did the same thing. He lifted the hammer behind his head and swung with all his might. Kazap! He watched in amazement as the whole lake lit up like fireworks. Threads and wired spinning bolts of electricity emerged from the surface. Light blue and white flashes of shocking energy went through the vast, watery elements of nature. It was a gorgeous sight and a powerful experience. Jack had never seen anything like it. It lasted for a while, after which the electricity finally seemed to disappear. Jack went back to sleep. The next morning, he woke up by the smell of fish. It reeked a little, but it didn't take long for Jack to find out why. He looked at the lake and saw hundreds of dead fish floating on the surface, perhaps thousands. Anyway, there were too many for him to count, and his mouth fell open when the reality of the situation got through to him. This was the change of his life. Chapter 5. Enough. Jack knew not to go into the water. He didn't trust it. The electricity might be gone by now, but he still did not want to take the risk. Within a few hours, he chopped some trees and used his tools to create a little raft. He put the raft in the water. Wood was a safe substance, he figured. He took another log and cut the end into a point. Then he jumped on the raft. Nothing went wrong. He rowed to the nearest fish and started pulling them out of the water with his pointy log. He touched the fish. Safe. No shock. Great, he thought. I am just going to fill up my bags with these delicious fish. Watch, we'll have enough for the next few weeks if we make sure that we preserve them well. If they don't rot, we should be able to feed our kids for a while. No sooner said than done. Jack filled up both bags with 50 fish. They were crammed inside his bags, leaving little room for the mysterious hammer, but just enough to not forget about it. After all, if this hammer had such power, who knew what else he could do with it? Jack got his stuff together and left for home. He walked around the mountain again, following the same route he had followed on the way there. At the end of the day, he was glad to see the little cottage he called home. "Guess who's home, kids?" he shouted with a smile as he entered the room. "Dad!" the children screamed in excitement, running at him and giving him a hug. "Dad, Lucy took my branch and I hit her, but then Mom said I shouldn't hit," Bart, the middle child, said as he patted Dad on his leg. "Your mother is right," Jack said. "You shouldn't hit. Next time, just ask for the stick back, and if she doesn't give it back, just tell Mom about it first." "What do you have in your bags? It smells weird," Lisa said, as she tilted one of the bags a little. "That is a surprise," Jack said. "Hello, Jack," Elizabeth said. "How did it go?" "Elizabeth, sweetie," Jack began, "I think I found a permanent solution to our problems." He put the bags on the table and one of the fish fell out of a bag. "Fish," Elizabeth said joyfully. "I love fish. Where did you get them?" "At the lake behind the mountain," Jack said proudly. "There is more than enough for all of us." Elizabeth was happy. She began to unpack all the fish Jack had gathered and put them in the kitchen, organizing them carefully and cutting one up for dinner. The oldest children got a fire going, after which the whole family had a delicious meal. They were well fed, something that hadn't happened for some time. Chapter 6. The Viking God. Jack woke up. Elizabeth, his wife, was lying in his arms. The sunlight was shining brightly through the cracks between the curtains. Jack stretched his arms and quietly stepped out of bed, heading downstairs to see if the hammer was still there. There it was, lying on the table, untouched by his curious children. He still had a hard time believing what this amazing weapon could do, and he was eager to find out more about it. Now that he saw it, he wasn't even certain anymore if he wanted to sell it or not. He knew he could probably get a lot of money for such a beautiful object, but perhaps using it would save him so much work and time that providing for his family would be easier in the years to come. He took the hammer outside. Perhaps pounding the burnt trees would have a different effect, or maybe he could electrocute some bushes. As he was considering all his options, he felt like a little boy again, who was discovering the forces of nature around him. But then he suddenly heard a thunderous voice. "That's my hammer," the man said. "What?" Jack turned around and stood in front of a bearded man with a red cape. His eyes were blue like the sky, his hair was as orange as the fruit, and he was wearing heavy silver armor. From 100 feet away, the man kept walking at Jack with a steady pace. "That is my hammer," he repeated as he came closer. He looked a little angry. "No, it's not," Jack said. "I found it, so it belongs to me." "You found it because I lost it," the man said. "How do I know you're not just trying to take it from me?" The man laughed. "Ha ha 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 ha! Do you have any idea what this hammer can do? What it's made of? This hammer is made by the gods. It has been composed by fresh lava forged with iron. With it, one can control the weather, electricity, storms, everything." Without further ado, the man snatched the hammer from Jack's hands and told him to stand back. For some reason, Jack thought it would be wiser to just obey this mysterious cape guy. Thor looked around him and spread his legs. He chanted some unintelligible words and raised his arm with the hammer in it to the heavens. Loud thunder ripped the sky, and thick black clouds were gathered as one and crashed into each other with unimaginable strength. Lightning flashed through the dark contrasts of the heavens, creating a striking display of natural elements in commotion. Rain flooded the soil in less than 30 seconds, changing the weather instantly and showing off with a grand performance. "That is crazy," Jack said. "I didn't know it could do that." "There are many things you don't realize," the man said. "Yes, like what your name is," Jack added. "I don't even know who you are. Who are you?" "My name is Thor. I am the god of thunder," the man in the cape says. "Seriously? Wow." The storm calmed down. The rain was gone. Thor walked to Jack and asked him kindly if he could have his hammer back, seeing that it was his in the first place. "But if I give you the hammer back," Jack protested, "then how am I going to feed my family? This hammer is exactly how I got all the fish." "Oh, yes," Thor said. "Before I forget, that's another thing I wanted to mention. Do you realize what you've done?" "No, what are you talking about?" Jack asked. "You've upset the balance. Nature has been disturbed. You weren't thinking when you electrocuted the water, were you?" "Of course I was. What is that supposed to mean?" "Let me explain," Thor said. Chapter 7. Catching Fish. Thor rolled his eyes and starts. "When you electrocuted the entire lake with my hammer, all the fish died." "Yeah, so? Who cares?" Jack asked rhetorically. "Well, did you ever think about what would happen in the long run? No more fish means no more fish in the future. Since they are all dead, they cannot even have any new fish. The cycle has been broken. In order to create more fish, you need fish. Get it?" Jack scratched his head. He never thought about it that way. Now that he killed all the fish in the lake, no other fish would be born, and that was a problem. "I understand," he said as he sighed. "I'm sorry. I didn't think of it. But do people actually go there to fish?" "Sometimes, but since you killed them all, that would be rather pointless, wouldn't it?" Thor said. "What can we do?" Jack asked. "We?" Thor asked. "I am not going to do anything. You caused this dilemma. You solve it. But I will give you a hint. Have you ever heard of Miner's Creek?" "No, never." "Then I will take you there. Let's go." "That way?" Jack asked. "I've never been that way." "Ah, you didn't know there is a river there?" Thor asks. No, I never knew." "Oh well, follow me then. But first, let's get you a fishing rod and some bait." Thor held the hammer in front of him and said some strange words that Jack didn't understand. The hammer began to radiate lightning bolts and bright flashes. In the middle, a circle of light appeared, as if something was being created from thin air. Slowly but certainly, the circle started to take shape, and a fishing rod was being formed. Nice, Jack admitted. I don't think I could have done that. There is so much more that this hammer can do, Thor said. But it belongs to me and shouldn't be in the hands of a mortal. I understand that you are struggling, that you can't provide for your family, and that this is the reason why you electrocuted the lake. You probably just wanted as many fish as you could carry and didn't mind the future of the lake. So I will make you a deal. If you put at least 10 fish in that lake, 5 from each species, then I will make sure that they are alive and well. I will use my powers to ascertain that they repopulate the lake. You give me this hammer back, and in return, I will control the weather and help you provide for your family. That sounds like an excellent deal, Jack said. Could you please show me where the river is? Of course, Thor said. Together they walked to the river on the other side of the mountain. They talked about life, about family, about the climate, nature, fish, chopping wood, using the hammer, and much more. The hike took a few hours, but eventually they arrived at the beautiful flowing river. They set up the fishing gear, and Thor magically created some bait with his hammer. I don't know why I didn't know about this before, Jack said. Well, now you do. I'll see you later, Thor said. Wait, where are you going? Jack asked. To Valhalla, Thor answered. He lifted up his hammer to the sky and ascended in a straight line as if he was being beamed up by some unknown force. Jack prepared the bait he got from Thor and put his rod in the river. It was boring. Terribly boring. Using the hammer to electrocute them was so much easier. Too bad he couldn't do that anymore. Fishing took forever. Ugh. So boring. Aha! I think I got one, Jack said as he jumped up and started pulling the rod toward him. He hauled in the result. It was an old shoe. Ugh, this is driving me crazy, he said in frustration. How can people do this for fun? But even though it took a toll on his patience, after a while, he caught enough fish. He put them in a container with water and brought them back home to take a rest. Chapter 8. Balance Restored. More fish! Yummy! One of the children exclaimed. No, no, no. These are not for food, Jack said. What? Why not? They have to be thrown back into the lake. What's going on, honey? Elizabeth asked. Not much. I'm just putting these fish into the lake so that they can procreate and make sure there will be enough fish in the future there. After explaining the details to his wife and kids, and telling them about the mysterious god Thor with his red cape, Jack ate something and left on his journey to the other side of the mountain. The lava was gone. It was as if Thor had made it disappear to make it easier for Jack. The journey was heavier, though, because he had to carry all those fish and the water. But when he arrived at the lake, he was proud of himself. He had restored the balance in nature. He had done as he was asked. Now he just hoped for miracles to have enough food for his wife and kids. He would have to trust Thor's promise. As he thought of the consequences of this deal, he tossed the fish into the lake and watched them dive under. Then he headed back home and was able to make it back a little after dark. In the years after that, strange things happened. Jack taught his children how to fish and duplicated the fishing rod with some homemade equipment. Occasionally, he would join the kids and accompany them when they were fishing, even though the activity in itself was pretty boring. At other times, he would suddenly find a few trees that hadn't been there the day before. Their growth had been stimulated by the heavy storm the night before, and it was amazing how they seemed to pop out of nowhere, so that Jack could chop them and sell wood to the villagers. The most miraculous thing that had ever happened was this. Jack's family was out of food. They didn't know what to do. All the trees were gone, the fish didn't seem to bite, and he had to scavenge for fruits in the forest. They went to bed hungry that night. The next day, however, when he opened the door, a dead deer lay in front of his little cottage. "Elizabeth!" Jack shouted. "Look!" His wife ran downstairs and watched the dead deer. She was amazed. Where did this come from? Jack bent over and examined the carcass. It's a little burnt, as if it got struck by lightning or something, he said, moving his finger over the animal's skin. Sounds like we're having deer for dinner tonight, Elizabeth said with a smile before she walked back in. They were happy, and they were taken care of. The elements of nature seemed to be in their favor, and Jack knew exactly why. The end. This has been Viking Myth, the epic tale of a lumberjack and his magic hammer, kids' adventure stories, written by Jeff Child, narrated by John H. Feskins. Copyright 2017 by Jeff Child. Production copyright 2017 by Jeff Child.